Hello, and welcome to the Terrace Extra. It's the morning after the night before, and obviously, we are here to dissect what I think was one of the most enjoyable, exciting, and exhilarating Scotland games in quite a minute. Yes, we are here, of course, to talk about Scotland's last gasp winner in Warsaw over Poland, one which has thrown Steve Clarke's side a lifeline in terms of preserving their Nations League A status and avoiding relegation to League B. Permutations and the likes to come. But given it is the morning after, it is right to say that at the time of recording, the effect that the result has on our World Cup qualifying seeding remains to be seen yet, but you can bet your bottom dollar that we are sitting here in some sort of Georgia shirt. We is me, Amy Canavan, and I am joined this morning by a Joel Sked. Joel Sked, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Joel Sked, thank you very much.
Joel Sked, yeah, because there's many.
Yeah, thanks very much. I really appreciated you starting it with hello. I thought you were really going to break away from being a Celtic fan there, Nick. But no, how are you?
I am. I actually realised that as well, that I sort of stuttered and I was like, all right, we're just going to have to go with that. And I thought, can I add a third hello? And I'm like, no, that just, I don't know what sounds worse now. So I was hoping that would maybe go under the radar, but no, it's always going to be caught up. Thank you very much. Thank you. Swiftly moving on from that word choice, I used 3 E's, which is just mildly better ways of saying that last night's game was fun. I had a lot of fun. I don't think that you get a lot of fun games of football anymore, certainly not involving Scotland. And I'd like to think that somewhere like, I don't know, like the Netherlands, somewhere completely neutral in that there's folks sitting there going, that was a good game of football, because I think that for the neutral last night, that must have been an absolute belter.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on with all your E's. But
thank you.
I've not watched nearly as much football this year, probably in all my life. Just all of it's just been Hearts and Hearts B. So I can safely
I am
say,
so sorry.
Yeah, I can safely say that is by far the best game of football I have watched this season. It was so fun, and it was just how football should be played. And I know if all football games were that, we kind of just like, it would just become the norm, and it wouldn't be so exciting. But I just felt like the full game felt like the last 10 minutes where both teams were chasing a goal. That's how it was played, and I think the size of the pitch, it just looked bigger than Hampden, it looked bigger than the new camp. It just looked so big.
That's because the camera was away up in the bloody heavens. That camera angle.
It's so good. Like compare it to Ross County, where you're lucky to see the other side of the pitch. But I really think that almost made it an even better spectacle, just because you could literally see, like, you could see the whole pitch, almost the whole pitch, and there was loads of diagonals on. It was like just switch the play, and it was so much fun, and it was made all the better by just the way it happened, or just how it progressed, and the fact that we won it right at the end with a towering header. It was superb.
Absolutely superb. And I think you're right that a few folks sort of got themselves stuck in a bit of a tiz pre-match in the last few days about, right, what do we need, what's needed or whatnot. And then there's always that fear that you sort of go, we're probably going through all this stress and then it's not going to matter because we'll go 2-0 down in the first 10 minutes. But I think the way that it panned out and sort of, right, what's going on in Split, it all just added to it. And although in the end it actually didn't come to that, and these permutations and whatnot didn't really come to fruition, it had that added edge, that added excitement, and it kicked off. And I was speaking about this earlier. I think everyone was saying like we got off to the best possible start. The 3 minutes before were absolutely horrendous. Scotland were so on the back foot for the first 3 minutes, kind of like the first 3 minutes of this podcast. But then I'm waiting for our Ben Doak to break free today. But there is no place else to start when looking back, even just in the last few games. Never mind just last night. But Ben Doak is the best player in the world.
Oh, it's you've been waiting for I think we've all been waiting for him to be unleashed, and I'm one that's just like. I think Tony and I talked about it. We did a podcast in Scotland, not the last international break, I think the international break before, and we were just like, can just plead it to Steve Clarke, just play him, just give us a bit of fun, just throw him in. Who cares what he's doing at club level? And you've seen it. He's a type of player who, as a fan, I don't think there's any kind of more exciting player to watch as a fan. Someone who, when he gets the ball, all he wants to do is take on his fullback, and he'll drop his shoulder. He can go inside, he can go outside. He can use both feet, and then just what he can give the team. We've not had a player like him in a very long time, especially just with the success we've had over the last few years. And it's came through playing kind of three at the back. So we've not really played with wingers, so it was just nice to have that. Something a wee bit different, but he just gives the team so much, just another kind of just elevates him for what he's able to do. He's an out ball. Yes, you can look at the defensive side of his game where there was a few times where I think the Polish left back kind of ran past him, and there was kind of 2-on-1 with Andy Robertson, and it meant Andy Robertson had a really good defensive game to kind of cope with it. But that's something that you just have to accept. He's like, right, okay, he's got that flaw, but that's not what he's in the team for. He's in the team to get Scotland up the pitch, to put the opposition on the back foot. And then he's seen it with one of the Polish defenders a few times. He's had to go to ground desperately and try and poke it away. And yeah, I think he's just given Scotland a proper final third threat where other teams go, shit, we're coming up against them. Whereas, does Lyndon Dykes give you the fear factor? Does Ryan Christie? They don't really give you like a fear factor. Ben Doak does, and yeah, he's as excited as he makes us. I think he unnerves the opposition.
I think the only folk that fear Ryan Christie is anyone sitting in the stand behind the goals, because you know that you're going to get the ball to the face at some point or other, or your pal beside you certainly is. But I was speaking to Lee Miller earlier, and he's someone who's watched Ben Doak sort of come through the youth setups in the same age as Lennon, obviously. And he was saying that, and I think a lot of post-match comments, you sort of go, all right, whatever, and things are said maybe like off the cuff, or nothing's really that exciting, but you can see that rawness still in Ben Doak. He said it on Friday, and he said it himself, that I don't actually see who's in front of me, and he just sees the shirt and the jersey or whatever. And I think that's although it was picked up at the time, but I think that's something that really should be sort of kicking about for quite some time. It's one hell of a thing to say, and it does actually, it's not only saying it, he's very much implementing it in his game. And Lee was saying that, that you don't actually see many players have that confidence even from such a young age. That's not. I sort of said, like, is that something that's maybe like instilled throughout? Are you seeing that with Lennon or whatever? And he's like, no, that's just clearly what the kid's got. But my only I don't want to put like a downer on it, but my slight worry is that right now I think you're spot on that he is completely elevating the Scotland side, because everyone's just sort of looking around, right? Where's Ben? Where do we get him? How do we get him on the ball? But when does that eventually, that like initial excitement sort of like peter out perhaps, and he's now, when he does just become like a regular and a first team player, that's just Ben Doak. I don't know, is it only going to be like a first instance thing, and then that's the pessimism coming through.
No, I know what you mean, but I think that's a longer term thing. Just because my fear is you don't want what he brings us coached out of him, and you don't want them to be restricted because of you want them just to be able to express himself and bring what he does to the team. I think there's always going to be excitement because he is now playing in England. So he's playing, obviously, currently in the Championship. That he's added a wee bit more to the Scotland team that we felt over the last, certainly like maybe a couple of years before, where you're really looking forward to the international break. Now you're kind of looking forward, oh yes, we're going to get to see Ben Doak in action. And I think the next few years we'll see, hoping it's kind of be excited by how he progresses, and if he can turn that potential and talent that he has into proper just like whether he can just move up the levels. And I seen a tweet last night. I think it was from a Liverpool fan who basically spoke about how he had watched loads and loads of the Liverpool academy, and the only other player who's excited him as much or had the talent has as much talent as Doak was Raheem Sterling. So if Doak can get up to that level, then let's have it.
All for it. He was absolutely fantastic yet again, and obviously set up that first goal 3 minutes in. John McGinn is John McGinn back, Joel? I don't know where he was, sort of buggered off for a while internationally, but is John McGinn back?
On the last week's evidence, I think so. I hope so. I know Michael Stewart made a number of. I think he repeated something a few times last night. What was it? He was
no.
Stagnant or stationary. He talked about being stationary or stagnant, or there was kind of that description where he wasn't quite as maybe dynamic as he has been. But he's seen what that Scotland. He can be part of what that Scotland team can be, and that Scotland can be a really good transition team where we win the ball and the first thing is just get forward. You've got Doak who can run with it, Scott McTominay can travel with it, Robertson, but then you're looking at McGinn. All you want him to do is get the ball, turn and just drive forward. I wonder if I don't think this would be the case, but it was like it felt as if he was just like getting the ball, turning and then kind of just waiting to be fouled or try and win a foul. He just wasn't
using his arse.
Yeah, using his arse. He just didn't seem to have that zip that we've been so used to seeing. But at the same time, he's still very good at coming up with big goals and big moments, which he's done over the last week. And what a finish as well. It was a lovely finish.
What a finish, by the way. Absolutely. I think everyone's rightly talking about the assists for like both goals rather than the actual goal. But like both were just in their own rights very different finishes, but class finishes nonetheless. But yes, if the part of the night has to go to John Souttar, because the sublime John Souttar rather, that assist, I don't know what the Pushcast award does for the assist rather than the goal. Give it, just have John Souttar's name on it right now. That is, he'll not do that again.
I can't. I've maybe not seen him do that specific cross, but I have.
Joe, come on!
I've witnessed him play some incredible passes during his time at Hearts, and it's been great to see his development because
Global Energy Stadium doesn't count when he's doing it there.
Yeah. I know. That's there's levels to this game, which Souttar's kind of stepped up, but it's just he's obviously had an interesting career, interesting journey, and he's been written off and doubted, understandably. I know there's a big spectacle fool in our group chat who's waiting to write him off again. But having watched him so much at Hearts and kind of week in, week out, especially his last kind of 18 months, 2 years at Hearts, it was just you just know. He had so much to give. There was, again, so much potential, and if everything could just fall in place from that, he can be a really, really important player for Scotland. And it just helps so much that because I think he's developed physically well. Yes, he can still have a brain fart here or there, or look kind of bit out of position. But what he can bring with the ball at his feet it is great. So he's another one that was really, really nice to see him just have such a positive influence.
Yeah, and he really fitted in well beside Grant Hanley, which is no mean feat, particularly given Grant Hanley's performance, particularly on Friday. But he proved his point for.
What did you make of Hanley? I unfortunately missed the game on Friday because I was terribly hungover.
No, I would. There is no unfortunately. I missed Friday, Joel. That was it was dreadful. Like for large parts, it was really, really poor. No, I thought Hanley was murder the other night. I really did. And when he was hooked at half time, thought, yeah, correct decision. Thought McKenna came on, was stable, and I thought he was a dead set to then start last night. But I don't think Hanley done too much wrong last night. So then he sort of proved his point. But no, I thought out of anything that it would be the changes would be McKenna and McGinn in rather than it being McGinn and Dyke sort of thing. So no, that was the big shock when it came to the team news for me anyway, given that it was just like that first half on Friday night, I ended up, I think I probably just spoke through about 35, 40 minutes off it, and like, just because it was just boring. Like, it was absolutely just nothing to get excited about, nothing to be, just like literally nothing to be bothered about sort of thing. It was one of those that, like, you're constantly clock watching going, how are we only 20 minutes in here? Like, I feel it should be about 10:30 at night. And it's a complete flip to last night, that you just wanted that game to last forever, and it was so much fun. But I think like that the Hanley thing's interesting as well, though, because you're like, well, I think even when that team was announced yesterday, that was still quite a bit of criticism on Clarke's decision to keep him in, given that I think the general consensus was, right, McKenna, I think even for Friday the general consensus was, right, McKenna will start rather than Hanley. But again, it just sort of proves us all wrong. And it sort of is the wider circle out of this whole thing, that I think there's been sort of like interesting discourse from last night and this morning, that there was obviously a hell of a lot of criticism, a lot of calls for Clarke to go even after the Euros. And slowly but surely, though, he's turned it around. But do you think that he has completely turned around the Tartan army?
No, just if I took like Twitter as a as a sounding board, as evidence, you can still see that. Unfortunately, there's people just kind of just waiting for him to fail. I'm not like, I'm very much in the camp of still have my suspicions around Clarke, just because.
And where does that stem from?
The two tournaments where we failed from, and I just feel it. I feel at times where, whether it's stubbornness or he's maybe just too cautious, and you look over his period of management of Scotland. He's obviously there's been more positive than negative. So I just think that the last two results have maybe given me and I'm certainly probably a few others a bit of renewed hope in Clarke, and you're saying, and just in the Scotland national team in general for the World Cup qualifiers. But you're just thinking, right, it kind of just gives you, maybe allows you to have a bit more patience with Steve Clarke. It's like, okay, is this what you've been building to? This nation's kind of league has been building up to the World Cup qualifiers and ending on a high, and you're just thinking, okay, certainly. Let's say didn't deserve the World Cup qualifiers, but he's certainly more deserving of them now, and having put what looks like some kind of foundations in place. And then because I go back to kind of suspicions in terms of his strange decisions not to start Billy Gilmore at times. And then there was obviously Tony and I talking just about just chuck Ben Doak in. And I know Steve Clarke is sometimes
a huge fan of this podcast, clearly.
No, whereas Tony and I are sometimes a wee bit excitable. Steve Clarke is the complete opposite of excitable. So that's where sometimes where frustration is. But that's just like frustration as a fan. I think he's I think he is certainly given. I don't think there was any danger of him like losing his job if we even lost these two games. But that certainly would have increased the pressure and the noise amongst the Scotland fans. That it takes away that now, and it gives you just a wee bit more excitement going into the World Cup qualifiers. And yeah, I just it's made me cautiously optimistic, just because you look at the Croatia, Poland and Portugal. I don't actually think that was a strong group. There was a bit of frustration that it's taken us a wee while to kind of get going. I know we've maybe been unlucky in certain circumstances or games, but Croatia are on like the wrong side of the hill. They're coming down after they reached their peak. Poland, as we've seen over the two games, they've got a bit of talent, but they're not that great. Portugal are a good side with a lot of talent, so you have to kind of hold your hands up to that. So yeah, there's a wee bit of frustration, but excitement at the same time of what the last two games have produced, and then last night going into hopefully the Nations League playoffs in March and then the World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous now that it's like such a long period of time without an international break. We've got used to having them like every 2 weeks or whatever it is. 16 months or 16 games, or rather 14 months sort of waiting for an international competitive win to come along in a few days. Will that completely change the narrative? Because the narrative was fairly negative. Will that completely change it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it does. I think it does. It does change the narrative. Like I said about that. I think again, this, if you're looking over the 6 games, I would say it's a bit of a failure, just because I not to finish second, just because of I don't think Croatia and Poland are all that great. But at the same time, context is probably required with the way the squad still missing a few key injuries, and the fact that this 6 games was probably a period of transition after the disaster in the summer to getting the team in a better place going into the World Cup qualifiers. It's just really important. So I think over the piece, I think Scotland are now in a better place. You've got there's still issues there because you've got a 41-year-old, well, nearly 42-year-old goalkeeper. So kind of long term, if that's up in there, and the lack of kind of reliable or just spearhead striker that you just feel comfortable playing in front of that midfield. I think with Conway, Adams, and Dykes, it's probably like there would be enough to kind of get by and play them in certain games where they're more suited to
Standard,
others.
you're telling me last night that Lawrence Shankland is performing better in his stats than he was at this stage last season?
I'm about to write that this afternoon, so but I'm not getting into that.
If that doesn't boost subscriptions for Heart Standard, I don't know what will.
Yeah. I mean, that's the underlying stats and the eye test are very, very different. That's for sure. But yeah, there's I think there's a lot more to be excited about now. But I mean, if we had stumbled to a draw on Friday, which was at one point looking like it was going to be the case, and then failed to win in Poland, you're just looking at you just like the mood music would be so ominous. Whereas now it's a bit more jaunty.
Jaunty, I like that. Jaunty. I was going to go for jolly, given that we're entering festive season, but I like jaunty. We did say that we don't know what this means for our World Cup seedings and all the likes, but we did say that we will be very much supporting Georgia this evening. And I was reading something just as I was waiting for you there, and somebody, I don't know who it was, I can't remember, on Twitter, and they were like, we're kind of resigned to pot 3 now. It is not inconceivable that Georgia will go and do this. This was a Georgia side who were also a lot of fun at the Euros when we were not fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly written off. But at the same time, I was looking at the pots last night, and I don't think there's a massive difference between finishing in pot 2 and 3. Yes, you could probably get a slightly harder group, but I think it's much of a muchness.
Pot 2 aren't stars though, are they? Like
there's
not. You go.
Yeah, pot two are teams that with Scotland as they are now, I think you're expecting Scotland to beat them, especially at Hampden. And I think obviously looking further ahead, like Hampden's going to be really, really important when we get into the World Cup qualifiers. But I don't know, I didn't really pay much attention to what the pots could potentially be after the last international break. But certainly after the last international break, it's quite down on our chances. But you're actually looking at the pots laid out, and there's a chance that you can get a wee shitty team in pot 1 as well. There's a few there that you fancy. I think Croatia in there, Poland maybe. I know Denmark, and who was another one that I was thinking? Scotland and Austria. Okay, shitty might be a stretch, but teams that I think Scotland can match both home and away.
That narrative has well and truly changed. Listen to the music now, Steve Clarke. Well done, sir. You've got Joel now calling Denmark and Croatia shitty teams, which is not too shabby. Joel, do you have anything else that you would like to impart? Any other wisdom you would like to impart upon our paying listeners?
I was just trying to think of if there was any other individuals who are worth mentioning. Gilmore's good. What a pass for the first goal. The subs were Maybe not not the best. They didn't have the best impact, but yeah, I don't think there's much else to add.
No, that very much sparked a is Lauren Shankland better or worse than last season chat in our group last night. That's how well thought of the subs were. And as Joel alluded to, Graham Thulis, I hope you're listening, about Mr John Souttar. But I think that is.
Sorry, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Go on, Joel.
I thought Robertson had a solid game. I think he didn't put a foot wrong.
I didn't want to be the one that said it. But yeah, I think he is. I think he has managed to also change his narrative a little, given that this is a guy who has played probably about as much minutes of football as me. Since Germany. So no, I thought again it was solid. I thought at times on Friday night he got turned a little bit too easily and was left a little bit stranded, but much more solid last night. And I do like Nicky Devlin, I do, so it's not a matter that I would be disappointed. But Steve Clarke, thank you for sticking with Tony Ralston. And
the reason I want to bring Ralston up is because I gave him I completely threw him under the bus earlier on, because I talked about how Doak wasn't really tracking his man, and it was Andy Robertson.
Again, I didn't pick you up, and I was
like, hold on, they're on the wrong side. So it was even more impressive. Yeah, even more impressive, that fact that Ralston probably wasn't getting the protection that he'd maybe want, but understandably so, because Doak is an exciting winger who should not be having to track back too much.
No, that is very much Tony Ralston's job. But no, the former Celtic academy boys doing bits, and I look forward to all the Celtic dads on my Twitter today going like, oh well, see, should they stayed at Celtic? No, he shouldn't have. On that note, thank you very much for listening and contributing to the Patreon. It allows for Joel and I to spend our Tuesday mornings talking shite for half an hour or so. Plenty more across as always, but until next time, bye-bye.
Goodbye.